PK Subban to the Maple Leafs? On Wednesday, just a few hours after free agency began, Kyle Dubas spoke with media, saying that the Leafs are still on the hunt for a depth right defenseman who has a physical edge. Now, this defenseman won't be playing most nights, and in reality, this defenseman also may be going down to the AHL once they get their cap situation all figured out. So does PK Subban fit, and who else could the Leafs target that could be a great option if they need it in the future? Also, stay tuned to the end of the video to find out the mystery player that the Leafs signed yesterday, because they haven't announced it yet. They have not announced it. So I'm going to be honest with you, looking at Cap Friendly right now, we go down the list, there's 28 names, a number of them are RFAs, so that puts it right out of the question. On top of that list is PK Subban, $9 million cap hit last season. I really do like him coming to the Leafs on a league minimum deal. I don't know if it's happening. I don't know whether or not it would happen. I don't know if it makes sense. You could call me crazy in the comments, but that would be a good fit in my mind. Ever since his knee injury, he's slowed down a lot. He hasn't really produced as much, 22 points in his last 77 games last year, and it's not the best. You look at his hits, 69 hits in 77 games. He's not the most physical player, but again, the storyline from Toronto, a guy that was really good and is not good anymore, coming home on a league minimum deal. Does it make sense? It does. The story is great. But the real question is, in reality, if PK Subban was to come to Toronto, they would have to sell him on the fact that, hey, you might be having to go down to the Marlies to play. And at that point even, who knows if he would clear waivers? I mean, in reality, he could pull a Jason Spezza and say he's retiring. That, though, is very unlikely. You have Alex Green, who's a guy. Yeah, he's a guy. You have Alex Biega down at 16, who was on the Maple Leafs and Marlies last season before he was traded to Nashville right before the trade deadline. You have him. One guy, though, that I really do like on this list is Michael Stone. He's 32 years of age. He's had a number of injuries throughout the past few years, but this guy is good. Stone has played in his career for the Arizona Coyotes and the Calgary Flames most recently. You go back to his years in Arizona back in 2014-15, look at the hits, 202 in 81 games. That's a big hitter right there. You go back to his recent year, he has 26 hits in 11 games. You go back to the more recent big hitting season he had, which was 2017-18, where he had 106 hits in 82 games. Now, the reason I like this guy so much is, A, you could probably get him at league minimum. No team has signed him yet, and no team looks like they're rushing to get him on a deal. I mean, I could be wrong, I probably am, but as it looks right now, no team is really rushing to sign him, because he would have been signed yesterday if a team really needed him. So Stone has that in him, where you could get a league minimum contract, or maybe just under $1 million where you could bury it if he wasn't good. You look at his last season with Calgary, and the hits are one thing, but points, 6 points in 11 games, that's pretty good. Aside from the points, which at this point in time doesn't really matter because it's 6 points in 11 games, it's probably he went on a heater or just something like that where he got a lot of points in a short span. But at the end of the day, he does make a little bit of sense because he can still hit. He's still a guy who could produce if needed. And again, he'd be a guy who would be on a cheap deal, which is what the Maple Leafs need right now. Just looking at this list, there is a small amount of players who the Leafs could really go out and target. There's not really much that catches my eye on this list, I'm going to be honest with you. So that's why I did select PK Subban. That's why I did select Michael Stone. I also had in mind Mark Pysyk before the Detroit Red Wings went out and signed him. So those are three guys who I think would be very valuable now too, because again, Pysyk to Detroit, but it's a small amount of players. What are you going to do? I mean, in reality, Kyle Dubas could go out and trade for a guy, but are you really going to get out and trade for a depth defenseman? Like, what is going to come of that? I think PK Subban, a great story, a great fit. It's a tough fit as well at the same time, but I want it to work. It's a great narrative to have around this team going into their next season. Michael Stone, I really like a lot more just because of the amount of points he's had, the amount of hits that he's had in recent memory. Obviously, he's not going to have that at this point in his career, being 32 years of age. Yes, 32. So he's another guy. And one of the things about Michael Stone as well, going back to Cap Friendly, he had 17 minutes and 27 seconds of averaged ice time last year with Calgary. I like that a lot, but again, that was only in the span of 11 games. So is it really a lot? We don't know, but he's another guy that in reality could fit down with the Marlies as well if you really needed him there. The biggest question though for Stone would be, will he clear waivers similar to PK Subban? The Leafs are a team that other NHL teams like to take players from when they go through waivers, if that made any sense. So if PK Subban was to go through waivers, if Michael Stone was another potential guy to go through waivers, being the Leafs, I know that they would probably get claimed in the first few hours. So I like these two guys. I liked Mark Pysyk before he went to Detroit. But now let's talk about the mystery player. Woo! I've done that for 2 videos now. It's probably gonna be in my brand now. You remember the name Denis Malign? Yeah, I bet you do. Yeah, he's coming back to the Toronto Maple Leafs on a 1-year deal at $750K. Malign is an interesting ad because he spent the last few seasons in Europe, and at this point, it's really 50-50 whether or not he would make this Leafs roster. He could get down to the Marlies. I don't really know if he'd want to come back to North America just to play on the Marlies. It's, I think, one of the reasons why he didn't want to play for the Leafs in the first place. It is a one-way deal, so his pay wouldn't change going down to the Marlies, so that kind of shows that he really doesn't want to be going down to the AHL. He really wants to be in the NHL, but at this point, it's an interesting signing to say the least. I mean, you look at his numbers with the Zurich Lions last season, 52 points, 48 games, 21 goals, 31 assists. That's really enticing. But again, that is in Switzerland. That is not in the NHL. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Again, even in, you look at the playoffs, 18 points in 17 games. It's a really interesting ad because there could be some potential there for him to be a bottom 6 important player for the Maple Leafs. It's just a matter of how he shows up in camp and if he makes a difference in this lineup. Another thing Dubas said yesterday was they do want to add more depth forward, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But Denis Malign, an interesting one. Adam Gaudette, even. They're all interesting at this point. You look at the goaltending. I like the goaltending. It's grown on me a little bit. The forward depth is still an interesting thing that I need to wrap my head around. And at this point as well, Rasmus Sandin not signed. That's another thing that I still need to wrap my head around, and that still needs to get done very soon. Do I hate the Leafs' offseason so far? No, they've added a pretty decent number of guys who could be good players. That's the thing, could. We don't know yet. That's the same with their goaltending, the same with their forward group. I mean, the top 6 is golden. It's not going to change. They're very good. But the bottom 6 is where they're going to figure out who works with who, and that is going to be the part where if the Maple Leafs do want to have success, that has to work. The top 6, again, I'll say is very, very good. The bottom 6, though, is the interesting question mark going into preseason. But yeah, let me know what you think about all these signings so far. Let me know what you think about PK Subban, Michael Stone, or anybody else on this list of cap-friendly players that I put up who you think could fit on the Maple Leafs as a depth right shot defenseman who adds physicality. Let me know in the comment section down below. That is where I'm going to end off the video today. So I want to thank you all so much for all the support on the recent videos. Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If you really enjoyed it, subscribe. And if there's any more Leafs signings today, I will make a video. If there's any Leafs signings in the future, I'll make a video. And development camp, that's happening. That's happening next week. So stay tuned for that. And we'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be.